Hey guys, in this video, you're going to see me cold call an agent and have a fantastic phone call going through creative finance. It ends up being a 30-minute phone call. Stick through the whole thing because I end up putting this property under contract later in the day. And you're going to see throughout this call, funny enough, she was scheduled at the time that I called to meet with another investor to go over the same things that I discuss in this phone call, that she avoids that conversation and ends up having a conversation with me. There are so many nuggets in this phone call as we go over VA entitlements. What if you miss a payment? She even asks, is this wholesale real estate? Where I then get to use a third party story and kind of paint the picture for her to educate her what wholesale real estate is. This call is the one that I would go back and watch multiple times of all the ones I've done. To reiterate, I even train my guys using this exact live seller call that I hope you guys get value out of this. Leave a comment down below and let me know what your biggest nugget was that you're going to take action for after this, watching this video, that you guys are going to love.
She was pregnant, had to get somewhere quick. He's in the military. And so I knew that my friends had redone it and it was amazing. And so they snagged it up real quick. But with him doing military stuff and them having more kids, they still kind of wanted to build. So they did. And now we have this one listed. So
have they already moved into their new build?
No, not yet. I think February 23rd is the hopeful date, but now we got all this snow. So
Oh yeah. We had some friends that did a new build. I'm over here in Phoenix, Arizona, but and they did a new build out in Gilbert, Arizona, and they were supposed to move in, and I think it was last year, it was in June, and then it got pushed to September, and then it got pushed to Thanksgiving. It's just one of those things, and
they told us they'd be in by New Year's.
Is it funny? Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, it's always kind of something crazy. But so that's kind of the deal. Everybody's like, why are they moving? I'm like, believe me, they didn't want to, but it's been a whole deal, military,
family, and life.
So, and I'm like, I love my house where it's at, but I'm like, if I could move that right here, I would steal it.
Right.
So
I know.
I was in there and did an open house. I was just like hanging out, like I just lived there. Like it's just so livable, and the high ceilings and all the things.
I know it has that vibe. Like my wife and I own quite a few short and midterm rental properties for some travel nurses and stuff. And like I would love to just sit on that front little porch right there and have some coffee.
And there's a little elementary school right behind it, and like
perfect.
Outside and all the things. So so it's good. The call we have at 11 is somebody trying to do something. We've been getting a ton of like, people want to do, I don't know, assume the loan or.
Oh, cool. Oh, so is it like a VA loan then?
So they have a VA loan. Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
But they are, they don't want to be landlords with a new baby and all the things.
I get it. No, it's real. I mean, I was on the phone with with one of my pool companies this morning for one of my short-term rental properties out here in Phoenix, and just managing that headache and the things that they're saying and the costs associated with that. It's real. So, but no, I guess on this property, I won't take too much of your time. I know you have another call coming in. From the feedback standpoint, I guess big ticket items, are there anything as it relates? I know it's a 100-year-old home, but are there any big ticket items like the roof or
nothing needs, everything was done. I mean, and here's the thing, when the people who redid it, so he is the CEO of like our community service league, and he and his wife decided to redo some homes just to kind of help get some, people to have some nicer things in the area going. They're revitalizing Inglewood like crazy. That area is an art district, and they just built a $3 million like art center, and they're building all kinds of really cool things. If you look up the Inglewood Arts District, like there's like they've got like the containers in the back, and they're doing like all the different. I mean, it's very trendy, really cool spot. You know the deal. But so they are, we're wanting to put money into it, and of course they did all the like unsexy things, like they did the electrical, the plumbing, the stuff, because they wanted to make sure that it was very well done. I mean, yeah, the
Yeah,
cosmetic
not just
was important,
lipstick.
but like,
Right.
yeah, but having the whole, innards done was really important to them too.
It
So,
is. It's interesting. We just bought a home up in, I don't know if you know where, do you know where Kalispell, Montana is?
no clue.
Like Glacier National Park area. Anyways, we
Okay.
we bought a house up there in August, and it's operating as an Airbnb right now, but it was also, I think it was built in 1901 or something like that. So it's an old home, and we had to do a lot of the unsexy things that you're talking about, and it's great to do, and it helps when we go and sell it here in time, but right now it's like I just had to fork out, 10 grand for this, 4 grand for this, 7 grand for this. It's
that's like that,
yep.
like
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, and what's funny is everybody who's come in, like I did like a broker open and everything, and they all are like, this would be a great Airbnb. This would be a great Airbnb. And, everybody says that over and over. It's kind of funny because there's so much like just cute livable space and like people that hang out upstairs and down, like all the spots. So
yeah, and I mean that's what I have that keen eye for that too. I own a short-term rental consulting company myself, and so like for me, I look at a lot of photos like this, and they have the color palette that I love, and a lot of that stuff from a capital expenditure standpoint I wouldn't have to do, and then I yeah, it's great. I mean, just little things here and there, so okay.
right.
And so are they, I mean, I guess the answer is I don't know, but they're hoping to, I guess if they received an offer on this tomorrow, what's their plan in terms of closing this one to move into their new build? Do they have a backup plan or like what they're going to do?
They can go to their in-laws
Oh,
if they
okay.
need to move.
Okay. I know. I'm just curious timeline wise, because like I'm looking at this from an investment standpoint, and when I mean that, I mean like I would probably do a midterm or short term rental on this, and put some furnishings in there. I would even probably ask them if they have any interest in selling some of their current. Yep. Yep.
Right.
So
yeah, I think they do. I
okay,
think
great.
that they were gonna try to sell like the table and a
Yeah,
couple
that's
things,
what the
but I was
first
like,
thing I
let's
thought of.
wait.
Yep.
Like, let's wait because I want it in there while we're showing it
Yeah.
so people can see, but yeah, they'd entertain something. This, like I said, this other person that I'm talking to from California, they were supposed to call me at 11, but maybe I have the time wrong. I don't know.
Maybe it was meant to be that you and I talked on the phone today.
I know. Well, that's what I was just thinking. I was like, oh my goodness. But they were wanting to do one of those like where they like take it over, but the interest, so they get the interest rate. But I'm like, I don't really know how this benefits my client. So
hey, I'm gonna hop in right here and just share with you guys, if you guys are wanting to find deals just like this one, there's a link down below for my PropStream. It's a private link that gets you guys 7 days free access. This is the software that I use and my team uses to find all of our on-market and off-market deals. And so hop in there, you'll get a discount every single month, as well as a 7-day free trial. And this is where we find 100% of our deals.
So what they're
but my title company was doing some research on it. I was, my lender was, so it was just kind of one of those, who knows. We've gotten a ton of like weird offers, but like nothing that seemed legit. Nobody calls, like you're calling before if you haven't seen it, like you know what I mean, kind of thing. Like you get all of these where it's just like, here's our offer, and you're like, I've never heard from you.
I don't even know your middle name. Do you have a cat or a dog? Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. And here's what I'll tell you to that point to kind of, and I'll kind of give you the long lay of the land. So my wife and I own a real estate investment company called Pine to Palm Homes. You can go to pinetopalmhomes.com. That's her and I on there, and my other partners and whatnot. And we do very similar to what you're talking about in the sense of we buy 3 to 5 homes per month right now. And we exercise, unfortunately, what the people who are the knuckleheads who are calling you, who likely found out this type of strategy on TikTok or Instagram, is probably what they're doing. But what it's formally called in the world is called a wraparound mortgage. Have you heard of that?
Not really, but
so
I can look it up.
So yeah, you can look that up. Also known as, when it's, because this is a VA loan, the actual term in the literature of the VA handbook is called a mirror wrap, because you are mirroring the current deed of trust on the property, the current loan on the property. And so we purchase 3 to 5 homes this way per month. And so there's a couple gotchas that, if you sell a property this way, that you want to be thinking about to, one, protect your sellers in terms of the long-term
Right.
relationship, because the reality is, at the end of the day, when you close escrow on the property, the deed transfers over to whomever purchases it. So if it's my entity, Pine to Palm Homes LLC, or whatever it may be, the deed will transfer over to me. So I'm responsible as the buyer, as the owner, for everything, taxes, insurance, termites, tenants,
Right.
everything. The current mortgage that's in place, that's, the deed of trust against the property, just simply remains in place. And I'm personally formally obligated to take over the responsibility of those payments. The debt just stays in place. And there's risk involved in that. And if you don't know what you're doing, it could even be more riskier, especially if it's your first rental property or your first property, and especially you haven't seen the property. Like, we walk every one of our properties.
Right.
And then, but when you have this call here in a little bit, if you do, the two biggest things that you're going to want to ask that person that they're calling you, because I know what they're doing and I can be a resource for you, even if I don't buy the home, but I can just be a
Yeah.
resource on your side. You can give me a call, because this is what we specialize in ourselves, is what is called an all-inclusive deed of trust
Okay.
and a promissory note. Now, a promissory note is just paper, okay?
Yeah.
But the all-inclusive deed of trust, what that's doing is it's formally obligating the person to the payments and allowing your sellers true recourse against the buyers if in the case of a default or a missed payment. Those
Okay.
are what I call security instruments, okay? And so that's what's protecting your sellers in this type of transaction. And now, again, like I said, I do 3 to 5 of these a month. For my portfolio and for my other investors' portfolios. And so this is what we do. And I can be a resource for you in this transaction, but those are the two biggest things that you want to make sure you that we set up, because we hire an attorney while we're in escrow to set these documents up for us.
Okay.
Because if you don't do that, here's what I mean, is that if you don't do those things, I call it a naked subject to, or naked SubTo, because it leaves your seller hyper exposed, and it gives them no recourse to take the property back over if I become a knucklehead and stop making the payments,
Yeah.
because they have nothing to
Right.
foreclose on. But if you set up those two security instruments, like I just referred to, you actually you have a document that we pre-signed, it's recorded at the county. You can come back to and say, hey, Landon disappeared. He's living in Tahiti. So how do I take my property back over? He stopped making payments. It's hurting me. It's hurting me. It's hurting me. Right. Because he's the
Right.
ultimate one that's affected. But having those two documents in place is going to protect him the most, that you can do as a fiduciary to protect your sellers, your clients, and make sure, as well as too, like, knowing who's buying your home, because
Yeah,
that
that's the thing.
that's the thing. Because what I've learned too in these transactions, and I can even get you in touch with the sellers of that property up in Kalispell, is that, and they shared this with me too when I met up with them for dinner, is that trust matters in these transactions more than the dollar amount they get at close of escrow. Because a lot of these transactions that I do, and I don't know much about the situation with your sellers as it relates to how much they owe and what the current list price is. I can see the list price, obviously, but
Yeah.
a lot of these transactions, sure, they walk away with, $5 grand, $7 grand, 10, 15, 20 grand. I have no idea the situation, and that's great.
Right.
But guess what? In 2 years, if I miss a payment, do they remember that 7 grand? Nope. They remember that Landon missed a payment, and how do we solve this problem?
Right. And that's kind of where I was thinking last night. And that's why we were trying to set up this call with this gal, was like, our questions and the title company. And I can tell you the ones that she told me, to
Good.
send to her, are, let me see. She said, of course, it needed to be written on like one of our KCRER
Yep.
offers, because like they just send you these papers that look like, here's our offer.
Was
so
it an LOI? Did they send you a letter of intent? Yep.
Yeah. And then she said, okay, we need it written on a KCRAR amendment to make the changes that you're requesting. So, like, who's paying the fees, how possession works, all that stuff. And then she said, the main thing that we would be wondering is, when would you intend to pay off the mortgage?
Yep. Yeah, so I can answer, at least from our standpoint internally on our end, for those things. So here's how the mechanics work of the whole transaction. So You're exactly right. So in terms of the purchase contract, we can do it one of two ways. We can use my vanilla ice cream cone purchase contract with my two documents that kind of lay out the structure of the mirror wrap. Alternatively, we can use the state docs. I've done that in 40 states, using the state docs, and we just slap on our, addendums on the back end that just kind of illustrate, you know what I'm saying? And then we come to an agreement, we all sign, we go to title, we open up escrow, we do our due diligence period. I usually do 10 or 14 days, depending on when I can get out there. I can get a team member out there that can walk the property, video for me, or whatever it may be. And for me, just so you know, when I'm doing an inspection, I don't do a formal inspection. I'm just looking for those big ticket items that I asked you about earlier. It's like the roof and like that stuff, that bigger ticket stuff. I don't care so much about the electrical outlet. I can have a guy replace that for $200 and call it a day. So like, I'll even write into the contract, nothing less than $2,000. I don't care about those nickels and dimes, don't matter to me. And then we get past our due diligence period. There's no appraisals. There's no financing contingencies really holding it. So from that standpoint, it's really as soon as title can get things documented and put in place, as well as now this is the critical thing, is to secure and find an attorney licensed in the state that can draft up those two documents for us that I referred to earlier, those two security instruments, the all-inclusive deed of trust and promissory note. Some title companies have an internal attorney that we can just hire them to do it, which is beautiful. It's great. It's easy. It's simple. It's seamless, if not, we got to find one third party, but my transaction coordinator can do all of that stuff as well too. She's amazing, Daniela. And then, we typically set these up for 30 days on or before for close of escrow, but with your sellers and their situation with their new build and stuff, we can definitely move that too. So they don't have to move out of their house. We can pick the date, right? And that gives me more time to kind of get things in place, find my cleaner for the Airbnb. I can buy their dining room table and all that kind of stuff, So anyway, but yeah, those are the bigger ticket things. And here's what I'll tell you too. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're asking your questions.
No, you're on a roll. Go for it. I'm here for it.
The other thing I want you to keep in mind too, okay, and this is a big one, is earnest money deposit. Ask them what they're going to deposit for earnest.
Okay.
That'll tell you how serious they are.
Okay. Right.
Go ahead.
No, yeah.
You're good. I'm hammering out because this is precisely this is what our team does. And and so I'm just arming you with the things that you need to be asking him about or her about for this thing, is just to protect your sellers, is to get those two documents in place. And I'm unemotional in the sense of, if you end up choosing my offer, if I present you one on the state docs and everything, it's more so like, hey, let's make sure we do this right, because you seem like a rock star agent that wants to learn this and add another tool to your tool belt, that I want to make you a resource and cultivate a relationship with you for future homes and deals,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is a new way of doing things, so I want to learn and figure it out, and you know what I mean, kind of thing. So
no, precisely. Like, majority of my my deals are from agents I've cultivated a relationship with and performed with. So like, if you I send an email out that actually has literally the addresses and the agent's name and phone number of previous deals that I've done, that you can call that agent and be like, hey, is Landon a knucklehead, or did he perform? Is he actually human? You know what I'm saying? So because that's the reality, is like, this is a relationship built business, and I want to pay your commissions and do it 30 times this year. So
and so that's what we were talking about too, is that she said, do you have, when I was talking to my title company, she was like, see if they can provide proof that, they've either paid off some in the past or who they've worked with, just to ensure, that we don't, have to, like you said, deal with knuckleheads.
Deal with the knuckleheads. Exactly. I mean, here's what I'll tell you there. So from a buy and hold standpoint, from my portfolio, my buy and hold period is between 10 and 15 years. And here's why, especially in this market, is that in that time frame, I'm going to maximize my potential from a cash flow standpoint, operating this as a shorter midterm rental. So I'm going to do my best there, keep it in amazing shape, and add value into the home as much as I can from an amenity standpoint to appreciate the home. And in that 10-year window, the home is going to appreciate, whatever it does. And then at that 10-year mark, I'm going to take a look at the market and see what interest rates are sitting at, one. Or two, I'm going to give you a call and say, hey, we're at that 10-year window. We've developed enough equity in this property that I want to cash that out. And I'm going to relist the property with you. And we sell the home at that mark. And I come around with you, and you and I go find 2 more properties that we can go around and buy. So for me, it's that 10-year to 15-year window that I'm typically holding, because that allows me appreciation as well as depreciation from a tax standpoint over that time period.
Right. And that's kind of what I was telling her. I said, if this is pretty new, there's probably not a lot of, payoffs yet, but, they might be coming. So.
It depends. It depends. Like, it depends on the deal. Like, if this home needed a ton of work, here's what I'll tell you is, like, if this was a flip, like it needed me to inject 75K into it to make it as pretty as it looks right now, that might be a situation where I'm putting so much capital into the property that I need to get a return on that sooner versus tying up 75 to 150K into one property,
Right.
So,
okay. Well, let me look at the rest of my questions. Okay. Main thing is wondering what you pay off, since you're not assuming what happens if you don't make the payment. What proof can you provide? You answered those. And then, she said, what do we get in writing that ensures that if they don't pay it off, that you get a quick claim deed or get it back in your name, even though it's in your name? I don't really understand that part, but
no. So what they're saying right there is, like, at year 5, year 7, if I start missing payments, what happens next is really what they're asking. And what I illustrated before with that all-inclusive deed of trust, that's much like what Wells Fargo does for, like, your home, let's say, or my home, let's say, is that they put a deed of trust against the home. And so, we would be doing a very similar thing for your sellers, so that, in a weird way, if you think about it this way, they're graduating to be the lender on the property without putting up any money. They're just holding the note for it. And so if I start missing payments, they can, contact their title company, because we set up a servicing company that will illustrate those payments. They're going to get an email every single month notifying them that payments made, payments made, payments made, payments made. And then simultaneously, if we miss a payment, it would tell them, hey, Landon missed a payment, And so at that point, they can contact title and go through the proceedings to take the property back over. But usually, and now I'll be transparent, I haven't went through that process because I don't miss payments. But what I'll tell you this is that every property I've purchased this way, I built a relationship with the sellers such that if it ever got to that point, they're calling me before any of that conversation, because they're not in a place at that time and point that they want to take the property back over. They're on their life, they've moved on or whatever. And so I'll just say that is, like, this is bigger than just a dollar amount. It's a relationship business. And so that's a conversation we would have with the sellers, and they would have my cell phone, you would have my cell phone, and you have my cell phone. So anyway.
Okay. And then I think, let me just triple check. I think that was all the questions. I'm looking back through her text messages too to see, because she said, sorry, another question. When you pay it off, it belongs to you, not them, right?
Yeah. So, like, if let's say at year 10, we decide,
sell it again.
Yeah, if we decide to even just refinance, let's say in 10 years, interest rates drop back down to, 4%, 3%, whatever it may be, or something crazy. Now I would have to refinance as an investment loan. So it's going to be a little bit higher. So like 5%-ish, whatever, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If I can still cash flow at that refinance part and pull out the equity that's attained over that 10-year window, when I refinance, that pays off that lien holder, which then removes them entirely from there. So the property's in my name, they're removed entirely from the, I guess, quote unquote, obligation that they have of being the debtor on the mortgage. Yeah.
Right. And then let me see. I texted her. I was like, I'm talking to Pine Palm Homes now. Look them up. All-inclusive, she's like, I trust you. This all sounds crazy.
Who's this you're texting with?
My client was, because she was like, are we getting on this call? And so,
well, why don't we patch her in? She can ask questions too.
Yeah, she said, is this wholesale house selling?
So you can wholesale these contracts.
Housing? I don't know. She said, is that what I think she's been trying to look it up too, just since we've been getting all these.
I get it.
So it's kind of what a mirror is, or
no. So the mirror wrap is simply the formal term that if you did some research in Google online, what it's referred to as in not only the VA handbook, but also if you start the Google or Ask Jeeves or whoever you use. But here's what I'll tell you is that real estate itself, any contract you can wholesale. And what that means is that there are properties that I have these conversations right here with you. Usually they don't last as long as you and I are having. You're an amazing agent. Is that there's some properties that maybe don't fit my portfolio and aren't something that I have a property in or doesn't make sense from a exit strategy. Like maybe the only exit, the HOA doesn't allow short-term rentals or something like that. You know what I mean? And so I have a network of private investors that I collaborate with, and they're doing very similar things. And there may be someone that is like, you know what, I own 20 rentals in this area. I wouldn't mind buying this one. And so you can what's called assign the contract over to them, and they end up being the end buyers on the contract. And so that would be something I would introduce you and your seller to that entity, that person, along the way. And you would meet them, and I would assign the contract with everything that we agree to protect your sellers. They would do the all-inclusive deed of trust. They would do the promissory note. They would be the ones funding the deal with their capital and everything. That is what wholesaling is. It's primarily, it's heavily done in the cash space. So like homes that are like dilapidated, that are, on Zillow, it would be 350,000, but because of the repairs, it's only worth like 120, 130, and I buy it cash for that amount, I can then assign the contract to a fix and flip guy for 220 and make 40K on the difference. And then he goes around and flips it and then lists it with you for 350.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the wholesale business.
Okay. Yeah. And that's where I kind of was trying to read that too, but we're also here on a snow day. And so I have a 6-year-old home.
How much snow did you guys get?
I think 6 inches.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. We're getting ready to go sledding.
Yeah. Oh, I'm envious. We moved from Oregon 5 years ago down to Phoenix, Arizona. And I was just talking with my brother-in-law yesterday, and they got 5 feet of snow.
Oh my gosh.
Is that crazy? They have a total snow day. It is taller than me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, taller than you. I was
No, but that's the truth. I mean, I am 5'6".
Oh my gosh, I love it. You could barely see out.
I know.
So. Yeah, well, you really helped answer a lot of questions. I think I can ask her if she has any more.
And I'm always open to, like, if she sounds like an amazing seller too, if she wants to hop on the horn, all 3 of us, and iron out some stuff. We can also do a Zoom if she wants to see my face and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for her too, just because, because that's the thing. Because I mean, part of it, like our lender said, well, you can keep the house and rent it, right? But the other lady's calling me from Portland, Oregon. You're right, but I think she's in California.
What's her name?
But Sanja Dahani. I don't know. Sanja.
Let me see. I'll look it up. Let's see if it's in my group.
I don't know where she's from. Just says her name, so she doesn't have a company or anything.
You said, what was the first name?
Sanjana.
And then is it the last name?
Phani. Mom. What? I got something for you. You made that for me? Yeah. Oh my god. The clip in there and everything else.
Dude, you need to go have a snow day with your kids. I'm envious. We have a 1-year-old, and then my wife is 31 weeks pregnant with our next one. I can't wait. I can't wait for those next ones. Those moments you're about ready to go do.
It's so fun. No, you're fine. So anyway,
why don't we set up a call later today with your seller and you and me
okay.
and iron this thing
Yeah.
out and see if we can put something together, and I
What I was
can
gonna say was, we're just kind of trying to figure out how it will benefit them, because the lender had said, well, you can keep it and rent it out, and pay down your investment. So that's why title company was like, well, let's really find out how this is gonna help them. I was like, well, I know how it'll help me, because I'll still get after doing all the work, but I don't really care about that. I want my sellers taken care of,
So typically, so here's how, and I can illustrate this to her too on the phone, and maybe that's best suited for that. But in these types of transactions, typically the benefit for the sellers in these situations is, number one, they usually receive more cash or more money at close of escrow than they would in a traditional transaction, because majority of the time, like at least when I do, I guess I should say from my standpoint, when I'm purchasing these, is I'm paying your listing side, your commission. I'm paying all the buyers and the seller side of the closing costs, if there was any transfer taxes, HOA transfer fees, and all that kind of crap, and all that. So they're not bringing money to the table, and then they don't have to worry about the property. The property deeds over to me and takes care of it, and they can capitalize on getting more money than they would, versus selling it traditionally on the market, having to pay a buyer's agent, because I'm going to waive my buyer's agent side. So they're not paying that.
It'll be less on that.
Bingo. So that's really it on those things. And I'll be transparent too. Like the majority of our transactions we're doing, and I don't know your seller situation more than you do, but a lot of them are in more of painful situations as it relates to, say, pre-foreclosure or missed payments or a divorce or various life events happening that, with the market turn, it forces them to sell their house more so than they need to sell their house. And so they're in, like my last one I just did in Redmond, Oregon, where the gentleman was $26K in missed payments. And he was, that's a tough situation, right? Like I feel for someone. And so this is a solution for someone like him, whereas properties on market 100 days, it's not selling on the market. This was a tool in the tool belt we were able to do to pay his agent her commission, Heather, and we paid all the closing costs. We gave him a little bit of money to help him with his moving costs and everything. And then now we took that property, because he had a 2.5% interest rate, and we turn it into a long-term interest rate. Yeah, you can't beat that, right? So do you know much about their mortgage? Like, what is their interest rate?
Let me see. She sent me a screenshot the other day, but I don't know if I have that on there. But we can ask her.
Yeah, we can talk. Yeah, we can talk to her. That's fine.
I think it was, during COVID, so I don't think it was bad. You know what I mean? I think it was a pretty good one. So 4.2.
Yeah, 4.2%. So that's an attractive rate. And so from my standpoint, to kind of give you my lens, the way I'm looking at this property is twofold. One, it's a freaking cutie pie that I do want to add to my short-term or mid-term rental portfolio. But more importantly, from a number standpoint, like that's what's attractive to me, is that I'm trying to accumulate as much sub 5% debt as I can while we can, with interest rates sitting above 7 or 8% right now. So yeah. So that's what's attractive too, and that's why you're getting hit up by this, is that they see when they bought it, they see the potential tightness and equity and all this and that. And so that's why you're getting beat up by the people who are watching TikTok.
Okay. I was like, this is new. I haven't heard of it. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And
yeah.
It's like weird that I'm getting it all just on this property. I have other properties listed and they're not, you know what I mean?
Well, here's what I'll say to your point, to that point right there, is that, that I keep touching on that Kalispell Airbnb. That seller was going to write a check to sell his house, and I ended up coming in and I was able to give the seller $15,000 net cash in his pocket at closing, right? And then my transaction coordinator handled the transaction. We closed, we moved on. But the agent and I built a relationship that we ended up going to two of her other listings, and they had, like, the next one we did, the lady, it was listed for 500,000. She had $300,000 of equity with a mortgage of 200,000. So we were able to give her a down payment on her equity. I took over the payments of her mortgage, and then I make a payment to her every single month for $1,000, with interest to graduate her to become a lender. And so now she's making money on the sale of her house more than she was going to sell it traditionally. And so she's tickled. It got her out of a situation that she was in through a divorce. And so we can look at your other listings too, after we perform and close on this one, or if this one doesn't work out, we can look at your other listings and see what we can do. Cause like I said, I'm trying to add to my portfolio. So
yeah, well, all this sounds great. And like I said, I'll get with her and see, when we come back in this afternoon. Our whole neighborhood is
I love it.
my tractor blowing up. We're all rolling out
Good.
to sled. But I'll tell her I've had a good conversation with you, and that we'll see. You maybe kind of if you think you're interested in doing it, and you think it would be something good, we can kind of give her some like estimations of things to kind of help her understand. And yeah, we can figure out something for this afternoon.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I'll be transparent on that phone call too, and we can kind of talk real numbers and like what I'm looking at and how am I looking at the property, so you can kind of see from my lens like what are they seeing? Like what about this? How do they benefit? How does the seller benefit? And we can talk through that whole thing. And so after we get off this phone call, I'll text you my contact card. And and if you want to create a group text with your seller, or if you want to try and set up a Zoom call, I have the long pro Zoom or whatever. We can hop on Zoom later this afternoon too. So
yeah, now it might look real scary from being out in the sledding world.
That's great. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, how do I even do this? The whole how much clothes do you put on where you can move but you can't move?
I know, the little marshmallow running around. I know it's been cold out here in Arizona a little bit, and so we've been having to dress up our daughter in all the little layers, and so she wobbles around like a little penguin. It's the cutest thing in the world.
I love that. I love it.
It got down to 32 last night here, so it's getting real. Yeah.
That's not normal. What the heck?
Yeah, January gets cold over here, so.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I had no clue. I'm learning all kinds of things today.
That's right. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, we'll go do that. Thanks for all your info. It's really helpful.
Good.
I'll figure out what we can do this afternoon, and we'll set something up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Boom.